So again, this meeting is being recorded. I want to welcome Marty to our guest speaker platform. She's going to share a lot of information and show you some slides. Please put your questions in the chat box. She's going to ask you some poll questions as well. So if you would like to answer, we would love to have you participate. Again, don't answer out loud, but answer in the chat box. You're going to need your keyboard to do so. All right. I've been following Marty for a very long time. I don't know if she knows this or not, but Marty is wonderful. And she's got so much plain information like, duh, why didn't I think of that? And I love that. So I'm sure that you will love her too and her message, okay? Marty is a workplace futurist and the best-selling author of Activate Your Agile Career. She has an MBA from the University of Chicago Booth School of Business and is a former technology executive that has worked in Silicon Valley. As a top career influencer, she has been featured in media outlets such as NBC, Chicago, Forbes, and The Muse, and has worked in companies such as Samsung, Dow Jones, and Apple. Thinking she's got a lot of experience to share with us. Marty is an expert in applying Agile principles to workforce development, not just technology. So please listen up because she has a lot of really great common sense stuff for you to take advantage of. And if you are not already connected to Marty, following her, seeing what she's all about, and her newsletter, it's full of great little nuggets of information. I highly recommend doing so. All right, Marty, take it away.
Christine, you win the award for the most animated presenter. Thank you so much. And before I share my screen with everybody, I'm going to ask you the same thing that I posed the very first question. What is your guilty pleasure? I noticed Carol Ann mentioned watching Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. I myself love Ted Lasso. Just discovered the show recently. Gregory says watching old Westerns on MeTV on Saturdays. So these are some of the things. So if you have anything, just put them in there and we may just refer to them later. It's kind of fun to see what people care about. I usually put that my guilty pleasure is dark chocolate. So usually when I start with dark chocolate, I get lots of food ideas from everybody. I will switch now to the sharing of the screen so we can get on with this show. Okay, so Christine, if you can just confirm that you can see. All right, so we're gonna do let's talk about you. What is your guilty pleasure? And so I'm monitoring the chat if there's any cool things. I see one here, can't be dark chocolate and or ice cream. I love that too.
Me too.
Valuable limited time with family. I mean, how about it? I mean, there's people that we hadn't seen in a year and a half. Comedy movies, nothing like a good laugh. I like playing basketball and spending time with family and kids. Contemporary British fiction and programming. That sounds like fun, Diane. So thanks for, oh, documentaries. Yeah, there's lots of great documentaries. I think during COVID, we all found some great ways to pass our time indoors. And it looks like we might be doing a little bit more of that with our next generation of COVID. Barbecue. I love that. I live in a high rise, but we do have a barbecue station on the 4th floor. Oh my goodness, somebody, chocolate again, white chocolate Snickers bar. I didn't even know that they made that. I'll have to get that for my husband. He just loves dark chocolate. All right, so we will go on to the next slide, and I'm gonna ask you to move away from guilty pleasures to another topic that will be fodder for today. What is the biggest challenge you are facing today? just put them in the chat. We'll reference them throughout. It's just great. I want this conversation to be about you. This is not about what I know. This is about what you need and how the market and the job market is changing. I focus a lot on mid-career job seekers who need more visibility in their job search. So that's something I know a lot about, but there's a lot of other tips and tricks as well. Technical interviews, that's a good one. Company responses. I was reading yesterday that some of these companies ghost, some of them don't say very nice things. I've been in the same job for a long time, and while it's varied, it's still pretty niche. So if you're niche, that presents opportunities and challenges for sure. Ageism, this is the elephant in the room that we all talk about. I'm part of the Age Equity Alliance, and one of the things we say at the Age Equity Alliance is, let's include ism, let's include age with the rest of the isms, and let's focus on them in the workplace to really make this an inclusive workplace. So we are working on that. Weeding through trash job emails and no face-to-face interviews. That is so frustrating. And sometimes face-to-face just means in front of the screen. We just want to talk to people. We don't want to talk to a green screen. Age discrimination. My resume ages me. Remaining technologically proficient. I worked in tech my whole career, and I will tell you, it is a moving target. I just learned about a new app today from somebody in the UK for recording video interviews. It's something called Quick Takes, and it's where you do asynchronous, or actually synchronous type interviews. I never heard of it, and I'm going to be interviewed in Europe, so I don't even know how to use it. Connecting with contacts in target companies. Oh yeah, so this is a search question. Biggest challenge, land in a job. The computer, getting a call back for the interview. Sometimes, Carolyn, or actually that is Renee Kelly, sometimes that has to do with how you're projecting during the interview and the call to action. As a long-time marketer, the calls to action are really important. So there are definitely things that you can do there. Customizing your resume and writing the cover letter. Cover letter is really important, and so are thank you notes. So I'm going to move on, and I have access to the scroll, and you'll see my eyes going over. So it's not that I'm being shifty and not looking at you. I'm just looking at your chat. Okay, so we will go to the next slide. So we're going to talk about mid-career job search. This is near and dear to my heart because I've been in mid-career for an awfully long time. They say that you address the market that you care most passionately about. And this is something that I care passionately about because I've experienced a lot of the things that you all have. So today's agenda, career agility. We're going to talk about what career agility is, how I invented that phrase 10 years ago, career development, career transformation, virtual presence, and the job search. And we're going to start with some trends in the market. And these are things that we're all having to adapt to. So we're very much in a learn by doing environment. COVID accelerated everything, and I'm experiencing now that what we deem to be post-COVID is going to be, uniquely accelerated in the same fashion. So we have to learn by doing and also do what's on the following slide: experiment, measure, and learn. So a lot of what we're doing, a lot of what we're being asked to do on these technical interviews and the way that we interact with people is totally different than it was even a year ago. And so we're having to figure out lighting. Christina and I were figuring out lighting before this so that the lighting was proper so that you could see the slides and see me as well. And these are things that I figured out this last year, getting these ring lights and getting these cameras and getting these direct connects to the internet so that you don't lose something valuable by relying on Wi-Fi, which sometimes goes out. The other trend is responding to change. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross came up with this change curve, and it was for the grieving process. And it became the change curve in the 60s when business management consultants took it over. But what we know to be true here is that When there's change, there's denial, there's shock. Look at what happened, a year ago, April. Everybody was shocked and denying what was really happening and not paying attention to how COVID was spreading. And then we get it, and then we integrate it into our lives, and we adapt to that. And this is something that management consultants and leadership development folks deal with people within management all the time, because it's not just us as individuals responding to change. The organizations themselves also have to respond to change. And that's why they're doing things different, maybe not the way that we want them to.
This looks like a lot of the grief cycle. We talk about that for job search or job seekers, that losing a job and changing a job is the same as going through the stages of grief. And what you have written down on that slide definitely has some of those words.
Yes, and that's, like I said, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and you're so right to make that connection with the grieving process. She came up with this idea in the 1960s and was trying to help people get over this idea of not wanting to let go of the past, or just really replaying the bad stuff over and over again in your head rather than moving forward.
I agree.
Yeah, and she also acknowledged that you have to acknowledge it and honor it. During the job search, we have to honor those downtimes as well. Mm-hmm. So the traditional state of work, how it's been up till now and up until maybe 10 years ago, is you get a job. Hi, I'm happy, I'm engaged. Your boss loves you because you're really excited about being there. You're high energy, high density learning, high growth. You mature and you master. And then guess what happens? We go down. We get a little bit disengaged because we're not as interested in doing the same thing over and over again. How do you counteract that? And this is why the workplace has only 15% of people engaged at any given time, because they have hit that mastery and they're starting to go down. Reid Hoffman, when he started LinkedIn, wanted to build an organization that people would learn and grow and work themselves out of one role and into the next role. He wanted people that were highly engaged. And this is how you solve that. I do a lot of, for any of the project managers out there or program managers, you'll understand the project economy. If anybody is a member of Project Management Institute, this would be definitely something that you could relate to. So a project has a beginning and a middle and an end. And when you're doing a project, you're kind of like looking forward to it ending because you want to get on to the next thing. You don't want to get into the maintenance and management of it all. You'd like to always be excited about what you're doing and learning. So why not hop onto the next project when you get to that high point? You can do this 10 years within one organization and hold 3 specific roles within that organization, as many people at LinkedIn did, or you can do it in discrete job roles, as a lot of the millennials were discovering as they were experimenting with the workplace 15 years ago, when they were first experimenting how they could be engaged. So here's the poll question, and it's not the official poll like through Zoom, it's just like A, B, C, D, E. What type of change impacts you the most today? Personal, technology, industry, workplace, loss of job. And you can feel free to not do A, B, C, D, E. You can do personal technology. It might be easier for us to scan. So
I feel like everything that's on there is an impact. How do you pick and choose which one is the most?
Yeah, so Christine, we see a lot of ease here about loss of job. This is a tough thing. But then there's the personal, there's the caregiving for the older generation, there's the caregiving for the younger generation, and then there's an A and an E, personal and loss of job. How could it not be personal? When you lose the job, it impacts your whole family and your self-esteem.
Yeah.
Okay, so we get the picture. There's a lot of change going on, and they're often multifaceted. It's not just one type of change. So I research and write a lot about agility. If you type in what is career agility on your browser, it will come to me because I invented that term 10 years ago. And what I discovered, by applying agility to the management of one's own career. I applied what I learned in the software development process, as well as how we applied it to the marketing profession, which I was. And Agile isn't just for tech anymore. It's transforming how organizations hire, develop, and manage their people. And you'll notice there's a lot of contract work out there for mid-career people. And this is one of the things that organizations are doing to adapt to their changes. It's not an insult to you. It's one of the organizational things that they're doing. There are less full-timers than there were 5 to 10 years ago. The alternative workforce makes up 40 to 50% of the workforce. Alternative means consultant, contractor,
Yes.
gig, freelance. They all have different agreements with the organization, but this is a big thing, and that is not going to go away. It will go beyond 50% in the very near future, for those that are studying that.
They said by 2025, it'll be around 63%.
Yeah. And this is great. We're going to call Christine our stats backup person, our fact checker. So I got this idea, 10 years ago, at 30,000 feet, where all ideas happen when you're on a plane and you're not like fussing with work. And you start thinking, and I had just attended a 3-day session in San Francisco. I live in Chicago, in San Francisco, and we had applied the principles, and we created the Agile Marketing Manifesto during that time period. We thought, why can't we do what the software engineers are doing? Of course, now you see Agile everywhere. You see Agile HR. There's a lot of Agile, but Agile Manifesto in marketing was the first one that happened after the software manifesto. I think 3 years ago or 4 years ago, the HR, Agile Manifesto happened. So if you're curious about that, it's how can we apply Agile principles and be better? But I thought, why can't we apply this to the management of one's own career? So this is the definition that Google really likes. An Agile career is a self-reflective, incremental career path guided by response to change, evolving job roles, and designed to optimize creativity, growth, and happiness. And that's after interviewing 120 people, doing market research. I hired a market research firm to do some, third-party research. And then I continue to do so today. This is what the model looks like. And today is not about the model. Today is going to be about a lot of back and forth with you. So you could go onto my website and learn more about this. But basically, there's 7 different processes and principles of the career agility model. One of them is viewing your career as a series of projects. I already showed you that principle. Another one is giving yourself permission to A/B test your career. And one of the most important ones is activating your feedback squad. This is about building your network and keeping it oiled for an entire career instead of fits and starts like we often do with our network, which is when you're looking for work, you find that that can be very painful. So where do you see yourself on the agility scale? Slightly flexible, somewhat agile and can work in these fluid environments, or highly agile? So if you could just humor me, A, B, C, D. So we've got some C's, D's, highly agile, that's impressive. A lot of C's, B's. Yeah, so you're pretty much mimicking what happens when I'm in a live room and I say, where are you on the agility scale by a show of hands? And this is where you're at. I will show you where you're at. Human behavior is such that whether it's aspirational or reality, we all perceive ourselves as on this part of the scale, as moving towards high agility. The difference between rigid and flexible, the difference between stagnation and growth, the difference between stagnation or steadfast and agile. So this is a lot of the research that I've done. So that's all of the research on Agile. That's all you need to know about Agile for now for today's presentation. So we're into the next phase. This is the reality bump. It's not always the most qualified candidate who gets hired. It is the one who is most remembered. Now think about that. That means a lot of things. It's not just how you interact with people. It's what you say, it's how you say it, it's what your follow-up. What is it that you're going to do to be remembered? And this is something for every mid-career job seeker to ingrain in your head and to really understand your value. The experience and ideas you have in your brain cannot be found on Google. Feel free to say that in a job interview. You know, like, why should we hire you? The experience and ideas I have in my brain and what I've done to master great turnarounds in business cannot be found on Google. It's only in my head. So this is important to own it. And, you know, because you are absolutely, someone said, I want to be hired because I'm qualified. And another question from Sue, is that a good thing? Doesn't this mean that employers should screen? Yes, yes, yes to all the above. But we have to work with the things that we can control. I did a quick 10-minute meditation this morning. It was all about control. What is it that you can control? You cannot control what happens on the employer side. Christine has worked on the employer side. She knows HR and she knows how hard they try to do what's right on their end, but she also knows that they're going through a tremendous shift, and she understands this other side of it that we are all working on now. So we're going to have 3 things that you can do right away for the mid-career job seeker. I'm going to check my time here. Transfer, transform, and tap. So it's your triple T. You can remember that one. And this is what you can do. We were mentioning, Sue, you were saying, you know, shouldn't they be doing this? This is what you can do. You can brand your skills and strengths online. There's so much going on about branding, and there's the basic hygiene of it all, and then there's the value added. So it's basically, who are you? What do you do? What is your elevator pitch? Is it interesting? Does it capture? Is it like the headline that we see in advertising that makes us stop? Why are you special? And really, it's special should be changed to different. What is it about you that's different? Different is better than better. Think about that one. Different is better than better. They will remember something different than like cheaper, faster, smarter. They will remember something about you that's different. And then what are your power skills? What are, power skills are the soft skills. So, are you a communication wizard and you have like this vision that you can see what people are thinking and you always ask the extra question? If that's a superpower skill, that needs to be communicated. And what traits support your current move? What, you've got to have the story that threads it all together. So what's transferable? So this is the first T. Who are you? Just went through that, the transferable skills. It's the upskilling, it's the reskilling. I was working with a person that was probably closer to 70 than they were 60. And he was reskilling like crazy on the tech side, by the way, IT and doing, testing and measuring in the quality environment in tech. He's got engineering background, and he was all about taking, this kind of Python course, this and that. And he's not going back to school per se, but he's becoming more technically adept and at least handling the conversation and getting through it. And that particular person just landed, I think it was a 9-month contract at a very credible company. So, close to 70 years old, and, really he has valuable skills. It's really exciting to see that kind of a landing. And then that's where your opportunity is. I'm gonna go on to the next slide so we can get covered today. How can you be visible with your personal brand? You need your foundation materials. You've seen a lot of presentations, through Christine's organization here on LinkedIn. I'm doing the resume. We're not going to go into all the details there, but it's really this is your basic foundation materials. What's most important that you may not have worked specifically, you may have done it in some storytelling exercises. You may have done it in elevator pitch exercises, but I'm a big fan of foundational brand phrases that get you remembered. The shorter, the better. So if you can develop, in addition to your elevator pitch, Who are you? What do you do? What do you do that's different? If you can come up with some things in the context of their needs, it's always about in the context of the customer's needs, which they are the customer.
You know, Marty, I heard a tagline on a story just last week, and they had said, "Just do it." And I was like, who do you think of when you hear that phrase, "Just do it"? Everyone knows what that means. So if you can identify what those 3 words or 7 words are for you, then that person will automatically think of you. And that is branding 101 right there, using all of those outlets that you had mentioned in the slide earlier.
And I love that you brought that up. You know, we often go to the big brands and go, how are they doing it? But, you know, they've got multi-million-dollar budgets. We're just one person.
Lots of marketing, right? Whole teams.
Yeah. So Monday I was talking to somebody and they gave me their pitch and they said, well, you know, we're doing, you know, I help companies solve problems. He's an engineer. I help companies solve problems. And I said, do you know how many thousands of people say solve problems?
Exactly.
So I said, just blurted out. I go, how about tackle the technical? You tackle the technical so that you can get on with it. It's just something that's, remember, you tackle the technical that is perplexing to everyone else except you. You know, just put yourself in that driver's seat and make yourself valuable and come up with some foundational phrases. This is the branding toolkit we have here, messaging platform, content creation, communication tactics. It's everything. This is a big old marketing plan, right? Your messaging platform, mission, vision, values, everything that you say, your positioning. And then your content creation is on your LinkedIn, on your resume, and on your follow-ups and thank you notes. This is content creation. And then the rest of it is your personal marketing and your networking and your social media.
So Marty, let me ask you, I'm sorry to interrupt. It used to be 15, 20 years ago, you would just bring in your resume and people would look it over and say, okay, you're hired, you're not hired, whatever. Now you're saying to be agile in your career, you need a personal brand or something to identify you?
Yeah, I love that question, Christine, because I saw something yesterday on LinkedIn. And there's, you know, LinkedIn has the LinkedIn resumes where people can like just put their resumes up there. Yeah. But I noticed most of these job seekers are putting their resumes up there and they're not even saying anything about themselves. So the resume doesn't cut it. You have to have a good resume. Absolutely. Some of the resume writers, I just absolutely love collaborating with them because they know their stuff. That's all they do. And they know how to get the information in a way that's digestible, not just for individuals, but for the ATS. But to Christine's point, it's important to say all these other things. Rachel says here, Rachel's in communications, do you think it would be beneficial to create a personal elevator pitch and a career accomplishments elevator pitch to stand out better? I'd say yes to all the above. And it's not just one exact template. It's you create these things and then you use them to mix and match. If where you're applying to, it makes sense to combine them, combine those two. If it makes sense to separate them out in conversation, that is what you'll do. So here's a couple branding tips that you've seen. If this is just reinforcing what you already learned from all the LinkedIn experts. Create a theme, banner, and header. Like that is such valuable real estate. And I've done a quick, and 80 to 90% of you do not, I think it's over 90% of you, do not use this. Sunsets up there, pictures of cityscapes, pictures of surfboards, Olympics, you pick everything else except you. And what it is that you do. You can take that 5-word headline and put it right there and catch people's attention. Now, this is not how recruiters search. That these things aren't keyword searchable, but when they find you, they're going to be impressed. And then the big thing, omission, people don't get references. So get your references, fill in, all of your keywords under here. And again, this is not a session to cover all of those details. And you just want to cover these things. And you want to use all of the about section and the featured section. The featured section is a great section for your resume. Put your resume on the featured section and have that be the latest, greatest one. And put it up
You
there.
said put your resume on the featured section, so you're attaching your resume?
You can attach your resume right to the featured section. There is a documents area, like when you're creating a post on LinkedIn, you can say, hey, I'm, curious or whatever. This is my my profile, and I'm experimenting or exploring in this area. And you then post it. It then gets put to the document area on LinkedIn, and then you can choose what gets featured first, second, third, fourth. That is totally controllable by you.
Yes.
Again, control the things that you can, and don't worry about the stuff that you can't control.
Mm-hmm. Sounds good.
Yeah. So how does one handle references? It's a huge challenge. I used to want to get people to respond right away, and I just thought, I just got to start at square one. And if I ask 10 people and I get people to respond, yay. And then I also say, if it helps, here's some key points. I draft, a couple lines for them, if you'd consider. So I've done that for people, and it really helps. Some people have actually cut and paste my exact own copy that I wrote. They cut and paste it, and they didn't even add to it. And I thought, that doesn't matter to me as long as there's something out there that's positive. Yeah. Yeah, and then Greg says that the former employer's policy is that employees aren't to reference others. That's a shame, and it's not right. But find someone when they leave that organization to give you a reference 3 years later, because guess what? People are moving. All right, we're going to get to the next slide here. I've got like 5 or 6 slides that I'm going to go through so fast. So I am telling you and warning you in advance that I am a fast talker. Christine will have this as a review, so you can review it. But let's talk about these foundational phrases. Just do it is great, but we don't own that phrase.
Yes.
Provide memorable career branding statements. If you're a healthcare person that only deals with operations, a lot of people have their master's degree in this, in healthcare administration. I care for the back office stuff, so you can focus on caring for patients. This is talking directly to the hospital and the physician, hires and people that would be hiring you. It sounds much better than, I have a degree in organizational change, and I know how to keep everything current. And, I see it all the time. I went through probably 100 profiles, and 99.9% of them had gobbledygook on them. And I never would reference their name because it's just what we do. I was a victim to marketing speak too when I was a marketer. Was doing a session up in Milwaukee, and this was from a program manager, Colleen Knight, a program manager, project manager. And she actually, during the session, came up with this chaos monster. She goes, I have this idea about chaos monster. Let's play with that. And I said, what is it that you do? And she does all this stuff with project management. I write playbooks for organizations that beat their chaos monsters. We'll get it. If you're hiring a program manager or a project manager, everyone else says the blah, blah, blah. And of course you have all of the list of all of your credentials beneath this, within this. They can go after that, but this should be the headline on this is how it is on hers. She actually has the process improvement off to the left, all the things that she does, and then she puts it on this computer screen. I'd like to see this a little bit larger, and I might give her that feedback, but she's with a photo. But this is really a nice way to do something. And she's highly hireable with the way that she approaches her job search. Now,
and Colleen is so nice, just to let you know, I love her.
Oh, okay, good for you. Yeah, there's some good people around. I forget, I don't even know if she's from Milwaukee or from elsewhere, maybe Texas.
Yeah, yes.
So how to brand via LinkedIn. This is a college, he's going to be a senior. He puts all the stuff about Purdue on there. It's okay to put that. I don't know if I put, my stuff, but I've seen people put the logos of their universities at the bottom of this banner, or logos of credentials, even using it as a billboard. So just, this is what Marcus did. Another one, this is a young woman who is all about marketing and branding. And there's no mistaking what she's about. it's what brands do that matters. It's their headline. Now, it's not saying I'm so-and-so and I'm special. It's just saying that I'm all about branding. And so if you're looking for a person that's all about branding, take a look at my stuff. This is what I saw recently in another session. This person said, oh, I just redid my whole thing after seeing your presentation. She put her name up there, project manager, in big bold letters, and then put all the subordinate things underneath it. You might say that's redundant, but guess what? It's catchy, and everyone knows that Rebecca Larios is a project manager, front and center. Here's another, I love it when I get actionable things that you can use. So provide memorable branding statements. And I'm going to show her thing on the next one. I train recruiters and hiring leaders in effective diversity recruiting strategies. And guess what she does with it? She's a top voice on LinkedIn. She puts it on there. She actually has her name, Jennifer Tardy. She's an awesome person to follow. But she puts it front and center. And then you might say, okay, well, there's another photo of her, but it's really a great reinforcement because sometimes that other thing off to the left turns into a video. So it's nice to have that solid photo there. So there are no rules. This is your headline space. This is if you have a picture of a sunset or a sunrise, consider putting an industry photo. This is a person who loves data. He improved process time by, data analysis process time by 250%. This is a guy who used to work with Excel and maxed out at 1 million lines of code. I didn't even know that Excel maxed out 1 million line items. And so, he's very proficient in all the software, not using, only Excel. So this is like, I'd like to see him put, a headline right here. And you could change that headline every other week if you want. Don't do this. Don't do this gray background. It's so sad. Don't use the generic banner. Put something. I'd prefer you to have a sunset than to have. So just make use of it. So we've covered that. So now it's transformation. Define your transformation story. There was a question in the chat here talking like, how do I tell that story? How do I make it rational and a story that makes sense so that someone's not coming back and going, I don't get it. You do this and you're trying to make a career switch and I don't get it. So create the foundational phrases. And then when asked, why this role? What is your answer? Tell me about yourself. Connect those dots. Come up with an idea zone and put together a bunch of stories, at least 5 experiences. There's foundational experiences that we all have. I often tell people to go back to what makes your heart sing? What were you doing when you felt that way about your work? And everyone goes, oh yeah, I remember this incident. I was like 10 years into my job and this thing happened and the world just changed because of it. And I changed inside. That is the story. That's the story you want to tell. You don't even know it yet, but it's inside of you. Just needs to come out.
Marty, I think that it's very enlightening when you look at your LinkedIn or you look at your Facebook and Instagram or your resume. You're looking at it over and over and over again. You see the same words, and that's why they recommend some kind of spell check to make sure it's spelled correctly. Doesn't necessarily check your grammar, but to have an outsider who doesn't know you look at it, and does it make sense to them? Can they figure out what you did without asking you, so what do you do again? That is a telling sign for marketing, for those words, because it's a wow. This is what I do. Well, how come it's not on there? Absolutely.
Yeah. So here's a question for you, Christine. Mm-hmm. Does anyone know? This is from Anna Pappas. Does anyone know the most used website employers use? LinkedIn, Glassdoor, Indeed. Where do employers go?
Do you want me to answer that now or wait?
Yeah, answer now.
LinkedIn.
Facebook.
LinkedIn. See, awesome answer. I didn't know that.
Instagram is right after.
And this is what's so super great about dealing with people that were former recruiters, former HR. I actually, earned my ranking by actually becoming an executive, a CMO, a VP of marketing, working in tech companies. That's how I earned it. So I lived all of those roles. So that's what I bring to the table. Christine brings something different to the table, and we all share information. And that's why we're all becoming better versions of ourselves, because we have a network that we tap into all the time.
And we don't know all the answers for everything. So
Right.
somebody's going to be smarter with you. And if you are the smartest person in the room, you need to go to a different room.
This is a really, really, really good question. I don't know if it's Brian or BRY 6467. Does this apply for blue collar type jobs as well? It depends. I know people that work in and around. I talked to a manufacturing organization yesterday, and so some of these things do apply. But I would say primarily works a little bit better for people who work in these office environments, these environments that were working from home during COVID. It's those kinds of people. It's not frontline people like the truck drivers. Christine, what about you?
LinkedIn is becoming more and more relevant to blue collar line level workers. However, your go-to is still not there yet. LinkedIn.
Yeah.
It's up and coming. So if you're trying to differentiate yourself from other people that are applying, you might want to work on that a tiny bit, but really focus on other avenues for employment, your resume, Facebook, Instagram, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and so
Go to where your employer is.
yeah, so I would also add to that, Christine, is that when I've talked to a number of manufacturing organizations, and there's a lot of different roles in manufacturing organizations. There's line managers, there's so it depends on your role. If you're a line manager, absolutely. If you're the person that's actually, putting in the metal casting piece, maybe not, but every other level of that organization, absolutely yes. So that could be considered blue collar, right?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it could be manufacturing, warehouse, CDL driver, home health aide. But if you're trying to get to that next level or be thought of as a supervisor, manager, et cetera, I recommend getting on LinkedIn and getting your connections and your networking going.
I love talking with Christine because she has so much value to add. And this is what makes a program more interactive, in addition to all the chat that we're getting. So why should we hire you? Tell me about yourself. Let's have some examples. So if you're a customer success person, I have X-ray vision when it comes to identifying issues customers are reluctant to share. My strategy, I always listen and I ask the extra question. Others may not get it, but I always get it. My background in nursing and mental health care taught me there is always more to the story. This is a person that was doing a career switch, right? And so people are going, well, why are you going from this? Why are you going from nursing, healthcare management to a customer success role? And guess what? She's solidly in the customer success business now.
And you are answering a lot of the questions that are in the chat box now. So I hope that everyone on the call is paying attention, because these are really valuable tidbits that you can incorporate into your job search and your interview skills as you are preparing to re-enter that workforce or defend your position of being qualified.
Yeah, so a lot of people, I talked about problem solvers and I talked about tackling the technical. Here's a way to make yourself stand out. Why should we hire you? Because I'm the fixer. I'm the person that fixes everything that's broken in your organization. I solve the problems in high stakes situations, high stress situations that everyone else walks away from. I'm the calm under fire. Just call on me when it's a tough go of it. So you can kind of see the picture that it's about delivering those foundational phrases with confidence, it supports your complete story. It doesn't take place of who are you, what do you do, what makes you better or different. Own this transformation. Be confident. Get rid of these imposter feelings. I have imposter feelings often, just like the rest of you, and I have to slam them out of me. It's not fair when the other part of my brain says, yeah, but you've never done that before. I just, it's a horrible voice that I have to temper and counter it with, yeah, but I know that I can do this, and I know better than you because I'm a better part of my brain than you are. Join industry associations. I make a lot of connections through committees. I've done this my entire career. I join the associations, and I'm not just a member, I'm part of a committee. Create ecosystems on LinkedIn. When I made the switch from being in marketing, my entire LinkedIn was three things. It was security, mobile security, cyber security, because that was the industry I was in. It was marketing, and it was all the journalists that supported marketing because I did a lot of PR for them. And then it was like, as I was making this transition over a 10-year time period, I had to follow a whole new set of people. I had to follow people like Christine. I had to follow industrial organizational psychologists. I had to figure out how I fit into the whole role. How does my job search strategy fit in with a recruiter, fit in with a resume writer, fit in with all the other people that help people, the LinkedIn trainers? They're a huge part of the ecosystem. So master these, the conversational tone that you have, and make your messaging convincing.
I think you brought up a very good point, Marty. It depends on where you're going. You have to know you and what your goal is to land. If you don't want to do the same thing you've been doing, what are other people that are doing similar jobs or where you want to go, and who are they connected to? What are they a part of? Members of organizations or working for a specific company, and maybe follow them to get the lingo down, to get the knowledge so that you can incorporate it into your resume, into your own language as you're answering those questions and going for those jobs.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes left. I'm gonna go through the last slides really quickly because I want to leave at least a couple open dialogues with questions that we can attack. So why should we hire you? Tell me about yourself. I'm excited to combine my engineering degree and my experience running marathons to develop new technologies for prosthetics. Now that's a very specific response, and that's somebody that took time to create something. If you are trying to get into augmented reality, artificial intelligence, you can make a comment about the industry and how it is helping us to move forward and do great things, increase potential. And if you're a privacy geek and your role is in cybersecurity and ensuring privacy, you also ensure privacy in the process. Again, very specific to a role. Okay, free branding chapter. If anybody wants this, email me. I just made this available. I just put it together last night. Optimize your career brand. It's 57 pages. It's got all kinds of diagrams, and you can get this chapter. Just email marty@constantchange.com. I don't have it as
so you were up late last night. Good for you.
Yeah, so marty@constantchange.com. And Christine, if you just maybe put it in the
Absolutely.
So let's get on with it. And then there's other things off of my website that are already loaded up. Career agility guide, a career agility guide that's geared towards the HR professional and suggesting that we all deserve to be happy and profitable, not just the companies. And then the Agility Think newsletter that has about 30,000 subscribers now on LinkedIn. And that's just on martikonstant.com, and there's a resource page. Tap into the network. This is the third one. We're going to go through this very fast. 85% of the job opportunities are hidden. You've heard that before. Online applications get 1 to 2% of the interviews, especially when you're mid-career and beyond. No shortcut for doing the heavy lifting. We're hearing that a lot on LinkedIn. Master the art of selling yourself and research those target companies. tap into the network, activate your network, current conditions. You can download all of your connections. You can mix and match them. You can get your first layer connections, your second layer connections, not as identified by LinkedIn, but as identified by, this is my top tier. This is who I'm going to reach out to first. This is my second tier. Create a presence on LinkedIn, the power of attraction. We talked about that a little bit. And then open to the network. Be open to the network. Some people aren't open to the network on LinkedIn. It's kind of funny. Tap into your video presence. Sit tall, stand tall, get the lighting. We were experimenting with lighting for this. Get the mic, dress for the role. If the blazer is right for you, a sleeveless dress or a suit or a casual golf shirt, whatever it is that is right for your role. And do your posture. Like right now, I'm sitting in a chair. I'm usually standing, but today I'm sitting. I have my feet firmly on the ground so that I feel grounded. Now I am looking back and forth with chat and not looking to the camera the whole time, but that's because I'm trying to monitor the chat. But normally if I'm talking to someone, I'm looking directly at them as much as possible. And that's right at the camera level. My computer is way below and I've got a second monitor. So however you do it, my husband does it with, books underneath his computer, and his camera is different. So we all have different setups to make this happen for ourselves. So the last thing is to summarize: transfer, transform. What's transferable? Transform, make your transformation story credible, real, and then tap into your network. And if you can just share one thing you learned during today's event, and while people are doing that, just one thing that maybe we can learn in the way that you phrase it. And then if there's a question, we don't have time to do a real-time profile interview review right now, but let's do a question.
I have a question.
Sure.
Marty, as I wrote in the chat, a prior presentation or presenter or consultant who was very effective suggested for people like me with tons of experience who we can possibly come in too strong, too confident, rightfully so, given our background and capabilities, but it's often at our age a turnoff or an inhibitor to getting hired because maybe you might not work with the management that the HR is, they're just concerned you're just coming in too strong, too confident at your age and what you might have made before. But here you're suggesting with these statements, basically the opposite to some degree. Come in confident. This is what I've done. This is what I can. I'm a fixer. I'm this, I'm that. So what's the right balance for someone in their 50s with a very professional background?
Jay, I love this question. I talk about this in my work. And you've got to package your experience in such a way that's not overwhelming. So when I'm talking about those phrases, they're talking about one incident, a very narrow circumstance. It's confident. It is not the opposite, as you suggest. It's actually narrowly focused. Now, what happens with the experienced job seeker is they want to talk about everything that they've done to help that employer. But a really good job seeker listener is going to understand the most significant pain point that that person is experiencing. And guess what? That's what you're going to focus your conversation on. Your competencies in the context of what matters to them. If it doesn't matter to them and it's a whole litany of your work, everyone's going to yawn and it gets overwhelming. I call it, it's too much, exactly as you suggest. So it's the nuances of working on your pitch in such a way that doesn't swamp people and doesn't swallow them up.
Okay.
Someone with 10 years less experience, they're not going to want to be swallowed up by that. But if they've got a problem that you can solve and you talk about that problem, don't worry about the rest of it. In branding, they have a famous thing, they call it Sheehan's Wall. Become known for one thing, and the wall goes like this. There's the wall stops right here. If you throw 20 things at that wall, nothing's going to break through. If you can narrow your focus, get through that wall, what's going to happen is everyone, you get hired, whatever, they're going to come to you for all the great things that you know how to do. But to get in there, you've got to narrow your focus. You've got your experience, it's all listed. Don't talk about it too much. Any other questions?
Yeah, I have one. To piggyback what he just said, a lot of times, you're overqualified, and they get you in there. You do your job. You're doing a great job, and they're actually taking all your skills and your information, and they utilize it for themselves. So, what do you say in that case?
That's an executive coaching issue that, and I'll say this in the kindest, we all specialize. So I specialize in job search, and I do a lot of career development as well. And that's really a career development issue. And Elise, that's Elise, right? That asked the question.
Yes.
I would say that's political maneuvering that takes experience, and with the right type of coaching and expressing yourself in a certain way. And it's also about building your network. If you're building your network within the organization and you're talking to people that are around those people, they may be colleagues, not behind their back, you're just letting people know what you're doing. I call it the road show. Do road shows for your kind of work. Do lunch and learns. Just say, this is what I'm working on. Wanted to share this with the team, share this with the group. Find opportunities to tell your story. When that happens, you will be your own best advocate, and no one will be able to take credit for stealing that information. How do
we find that contract work you mentioned?
Kevin, what's the question?
About contract work. How do we find contract work?
That's a big old depends. It depends on your industry. I know in some industries, like in the financial services industry, we've got the fractional CMOs, fractional CFOs. That was a big deal. It started out with CFOs. So there's lots of organizations. I don't have them committed to memory, but that's where you get the contract work. The other place that you get contract work, it's through artful navigation. This is kind of the hidden way to get it. One of the ways that I got at it was, I stayed in touch with all the executives that I worked with. And when they landed, they remembered what I did. And they said, oh, why don't you come over? And there were times I'd say, well, I'm not going to move to California, but I'll do a contract with you. And I ended up, all of these big companies have contract organizations that handle all this. And so I ended up just going to work and working for 18 months, for Samsung. That was a big contract. And so that was through the hidden or kind of your network piece. But there are organizations for each industry that does work on contracts. And since, almost 50% of our workforce is in this alternative area, it's going to be becoming more and more common. And all of the research suggests that a lot of later stage career people are going to be doing more and more contract work. Some people are still landing, regular full-time jobs, but it's contract work. It's hard because you have to always be filling your pipeline. But it can be, depending on how you navigate, you can charge the premium that is due you. When you work on these contracts and they know that they need you for a year or 9 months, these CFOs they don't take their yearly salary and divide it in half, they triple it. They triple it for the short haul, Kevin. And there's all kinds of pricing strategies for that. And I learned a whole lot more when I actually did the contracting myself. Because I had done freelance work, I had done project work, but I had never done the contract.
If you check out my YouTube channel, there are attachments in Dropbox, and to get started with the list of contract work organizations, job boards, it's there. So if you go to my YouTube channel, which I have posted in the chat box for everyone, I definitely recommend checking out the videos to get started in job search, step 1, 2, 3, etc. And then all the attachments that will help you to create your resume, as well as create your personal branding statement, etc., etc. There's a lot of pieces to job search, and Marty tried to cover a lot of information in our short time together. And a lot of the questions that everyone is asking are about different topics. So that's why I do recommend starting out with that to get the most information for you to be able to move forward, whether it is LinkedIn or interview skills or networking. It doesn't even matter. They're all on there, as well as guest speakers.
Yeah, and
May I ask a question about LinkedIn, please?
sure.
I
I don't know.
sure.
It's up to Christine.
LinkedIn has been strongly recommended. Prior seminars and other presenters have indicated that it's a very good idea to avoid dates on a resume, especially if you've been working for a long time. The problem with LinkedIn is that you are required to fill in certain fields, and those fields require dates of employment, which then prevents you from escaping ageism. So how do you get past that?
Well, Carolyn, this is a really easy answer. I didn't put everything of my whole history. And what I did is you can reference it in more of like a general thing in your About Me section, whatever, if you want to cover certain things that you did early on, but just stop. Just like if you don't want to go, if you only want to go back 15 years or 20 years, you don't want to go back 30, just slice off the 10. And
But
then
they ask you start date and finish date.
They
for
used
all
to
of them.
ask you those dates. They don't ask you
No.
anymore. LinkedIn
No.
changes every single day, and they haven't in a while asked you for dates for your work history. So you can leave them off if you choose to do so.
Yeah, I was on recently and I couldn't complete the information unless I put in start and finish, so.
it sounds like a technical LinkedIn question. I'm sure there's an answer to it, and it is solvable, Carolyn. So not to worry there. You will be fine. I know LinkedIn changes all the time. But I'd like to, thank everybody for your time. I'm an open networker on LinkedIn. So if anybody, wants to have a chat or anything like that, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I know that I didn't get to do a real-time review. I'd be happy to do a 15-minute review with anybody who wants to on their LinkedIn profile, but you just have to contact me via my LinkedIn profile.
Well, I appreciate that very much, Marty. And just thank you so much for sharing those graphs and charts that you spent so much time on. And the information was overwhelming. And I'm sure we all have a list of things to do now. I was looking at my profile. I'm like, yeah, I think I could change that or incorporate this or whatever. So thank you so much.
Can I just say one more thing to anyone else?
Of course.
There's one more thing. I've seen a lot of questions about, oh, I got let go because of COVID, like all these things are in flux. There's only hourly, there's not full time. I want to leave this with you. This is a time of incredible change. Organizations are making all kinds of decisions. I was just thinking about it the other day. A lot of organizations made their offices like really dense because that's how it was before, and now they're faced like they paid for all their systems and design and everything, and faced with offices that aren't COVID compliant, right? So they're dealing with so many things. Organizations are responding. There is going to be a lot that happens, and there's a lot of interim. I'm renewing on one of my professional organizations, and they're renewing. They lost a lot of income last year, and so they're trying to figure out how to make it. And I'm thinking, oh, this is really lousy customer service, but it's not lousy customer service. It's just there's this interim period of flux that is going to be there, and it is going to even out a little bit. And it's a matter of figuring out what is it that you need to do now to get through the next 6 months to 90 days. If it's interim, if it's hourly, if it's something that you need to do, but to continue doing all the rest of the things that will fortify your profile and fortify your network, and you will get where you need to. So just, take all that stuff and all that crap that's happening and just put it in its place.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I appreciate that. And thanks for the motivation too, because I think we all as job seekers get down and get frustrated and it's not worth it. And all of those emotions that go with job loss on top of everything that's going on in society, whether it is COVID, some other pandemic, or losing our job, period, on top of taking care of ourselves or a loved one or our children, or the list goes on and on and on. So you have all these stressors on top of trying to find a job. It can be very, very overwhelming. So definitely everyone who's on this call today, good for you, because you're one step ahead of everyone else that wasn't here in landing. You have the information. Now you need to take action to put it in motion so that you can be successful in whatever your role is. And I applaud you for doing that. There's a lot of job seekers here. Become job search buddies. I firmly believe in helping the person that's next to you, because you are not on an island all by yourself. And that's really important to remember. Yes. I will send you the link to this recording so you can watch it for replays at a later time. And that could be important. Share with a friend. Let them know about Marti, all of her advice, and definitely follow that Agility newsletter, as well as check out her new chapter. She was up late last night making that book.
Great. Thank you so much. Have a great day, everybody. Happy Wednesday.
Happy Wednesday. Have a great hump day. Hopefully it'll stay sunny.
Woohoo!
Thank you. Take care.
See you, folks. Thank you.